Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Collier. I am one of the founding members of Farmlink, along with a few of my close friends here, and I'm CEO of the Farmlink project. And we're so happy to have you here. We have been building the Farmlink project since April of 2020. And we started Farmlink as a response to a lot of stories being told. There was huge food waste piling up on farms as the commercial food industry shut down. And at the same time, there was story after story being told about food banks facing the longest lines they'd ever seen. And we didn't know anything about this space. We knew that these were two problems that faced each other. And so we started calling farmers. And we called dozens and then hundreds. And the goal was to ask them, are you really dealing with this food waste? And is there something we can do to support you? So eventually we got through to this farmer. James spoke with Shay Myers, this onion farmer, who had been written about in the New York Times. He had a pile of 2 million pounds of onions with nowhere to go. And he said, if you get a truck here, you can take whatever you can. And the next day, Aiden and James rented a U-Haul, and while we were having those onions picked up in Idaho, they picked 11,000 eggs up in the back of a U-Haul, and they brought it back to their local food bank. And that is not safe. Don't do that. That is something we did once, and we won't do it again. But that's how we learned, and that's how we proved a concept. And I think that there's a lot to learn from starting small like that. Where we are today is we're a nonprofit that 600 young people have helped build. And 9 more are going to help it grow from here. We have moved over 150 million pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables and other produce to communities around the country and around North America. And just to share a little bit about what Farmlink is capable of today, I want to share something that we've been doing for the last 6 weeks, which is in the second week of September, the West Virginia Department of Agriculture reached out to us. They said about a dozen of our apple growers lost their customer base a month before harvest, and they were left with 40 million apples with nowhere to go. This is about 15 million pounds of apples. It's about 400 full truckloads worth of apples. And we did some research. What is the largest moment of surplus food recovery ever? And what we came up with was about 20 years ago, a bunch of food banks in the Northwest worked together to recover a lot of potatoes, 100 truckloads of potatoes. This is 400 truckloads of apples. And so we said yes, without really knowing how we were going to figure it out in a very Farmlink fashion. Today, with about 3 weeks left on the season, we've moved 300 truckloads of apples to communities across 25 different states. And that is 3 times larger than 100 truckloads of potatoes. This is not an isolated moment. Last year, we told a story about 50 million pounds of bananas that went to waste in Mexico because an early cold front left these little brown spots at the bottom of the peel. And that was enough for all of their contracts to be canceled. And next year, we've already heard about over 120 million pounds of surplus potatoes. This is so much greater than that 100 truckloads I was talking about. And these moments, they happen again and again and again. And Farmlink is something I can confidently say has done a great job for 3 years. But over the last couple months, we've moved from being an organization that I believe is doing something really well to an organization that I can say is doing something that I don't think anyone else can or has done before. And so we are now going to hear from Naveen, Claire, and our field fellows about what they're looking into. And to thread all of this stuff about Farmlink and our food program back to our fellowship, it all just started with calling and learning and immersing ourselves. And I think that the most important part of Farmlink has been that we had a chance to try, a chance to learn, a chance to explore. So as we've moved into a much more stable and mature organization, we have 20 employees, we recognize that if we lost that piece of exploration, the opportunity for young people to be involved in this, we would be losing a really essential part of our identity. And so without really knowing what it would look like, last year we set out with a goal of creating a fellowship that allowed all of the pieces that we experienced in that first year of immersion and exploration and learning and doing. And Claire and Thea turned that into the field fellowship. So we're going to hear a lot. I'm going to end it there, and I'd love to speak with any of you more about the apples, about how we created the fellowship, about where we are as an organization today. But I'd love to introduce Naveen. Naveen is somebody who has very quickly believed in Farmlink, and I know because I know what the Mayfield Fellowship is. Some of the smartest people I've ever met were Mayfield Fellows at Stanford, and that is a product of this group of people. It is the product of Naveen's work and support, and I'm so happy to introduce you, Naveen, to share a little bit more about why we're here today and what we believe this fellowship can be, and then Field Fellows, it's up to you. So thank you, everybody.
Wow, wow, wow. It's great to see so many young faces and really looking forward to hearing from the first cohort of the Field Fellows. Aha. So this was not my slide. So I'm here to talk about the Farmlink Mayfield partnership. For those of you who don't know who Mayfield is one of the earliest venture capital firms in the business. We fund ideas at the earliest stages. We fund entrepreneurs and help them build industry-leading companies of tomorrow. We want to partner with entrepreneurs who want to change the way we work, live, and play. That's our day job of funding for-profit organizations. Our team that we have assembled have all been entrepreneurs before. And in our 50-plus year history of investing since 1969, we've been fortunate to raise 20 US funds. We have currently over $3 billion under management. We have made over 550 investments. 225 of them have been acquired by leading companies, and 120 of them have gone and had IPOs. Mayfield, having been in business for so long, has two missions. One, the for-profit mission of creating industry-leading companies. But at the same time, we don't want to just do well financially for our entrepreneurs, our employees, and our investors. We also want to do good for the world. We want to change the world. We want to make it a better place. So there are three kinds of programs we have been funding in our history. The first are programs which are focused on education. The second are programs which are focused on hunger. And we want to do this in an inclusive manner. So a lot of focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. As Ben mentioned, over 25 years back, we started a Mayfield Fellows program at Stanford, where 12 students are handpicked in a 9-month program. And they learn about entrepreneurship, especially responsible entrepreneurship, and help them become leaders of tomorrow. We have done similar things, and one of the founding members of Farmlink, James, came from that program, and I think a couple of others more. Hunger is extremely important. The world is not equal, and we have been funding programs for a long, long time, whether it's in India, whether it's Second Harvest, and I'll talk about our relationship with Farmlink today. And then we try to do it, as I mentioned earlier, in a very inclusive and equitable fashion. So why is this food waste and insecurity problem important? Mayfield rarely cold calls people. The whole world approaches us. I'm here to admit, I actually reached out to Ben through a referral. Somebody told me, hey, you have this aim of solving food waste and insecurity. Are you aware of what Farmlink is doing? I knew about it a little bit, and I sent a cold email to Ben, and the rest you will see his history, right? Because to find great things in life, dinosaurs can never survive. So you better adapt and do things which are unnatural to you. So why is this problem important, and why an outreach? So every year, I'm sure some of the people know who are part of this program, 30 to 40% of the food, which is over 100 billion pounds, is wasted. At the same time, over 35 million Americans and over 800 million people in the world are food insecure. At the same time, everybody is aware of forest fires, climate change. Food wasted leads to greenhouse emissions, which is not good for the planet. So if you're looking at having impact, and for profit, all of us in Sand Hill invest in climate tech, there's no better way to save the planet by saving the food. So you get dual goal. One, you feed people. Secondly, you make the planet a better place. And third, the food unused from farms wastes significant amount of water and land at the same time. So what excited us about Farmlink? We had a prepared mind to focus on food waste and security. But what attracted us is once you have your visions aligned, understanding from Ben and the other founders, the values of this organization led to us forming a long-term partnership with Farmlink, and it's because of the youth who are involved in this project. And the founders started this a couple of years back, and we're going to hear from new people who are joining on this mission. So what is our partnership about? Mayfield is going to be partnering with Farmlink to sponsor the Field Fellowship. The aim is, as we have helped create entrepreneurs of tomorrow, how do we fund change makers of tomorrow, many of whom you will be hearing from today, who are going to go on and solve big, hairy, audacious problems in the food ecosystem. With that, I want to invite Claire to the stage to talk about the Field Fellowship and introduce the first cohort of the Field Fellows. Thank you.
So first, I just want to thank Naveen one more time. Thank you for your continued partnership with Farmlink. We're so appreciative of the Mayfield Fund for supporting us, and today's celebration really wouldn't be possible without them. So just one more time, I would like to applaud the Mayfield Fund for their help. So hi everyone, I'm Claire Ryder. I'm the head of strategy and operations for the Farmlink project, and I'm also the co-founder of the Field Fellowship along with Thea Petrovich. So Ben gave a really great intro to Farmlink and all that we are. I think to sum it up, we just like to say that Farmlink is an innovative actor in the food system. We not only connect surplus food to food insecure communities, we also commit ourselves to introducing new theories of change and new change makers into the food system every year. That's what I'm here to talk to you today about, the Field Fellowship. So the Field Fellowship is our commitment to a better tomorrow. It's a permanent program to scale Farmlink's impact and introduce new social and environmental change makers into the food system. We thought that if one student idea can escalate and rescue 150 million pounds of food, then generating and empowering dozens more student ideas can end food insecurity and waste as we know it. Or that's our hope. So what is the Field Fellowship? It's a 3-phase program meant to introduce new change makers into the food system and give them the power to build and ideate solutions that will change how we do things. We don't accept complacency in an imperfect system. And so we built a 3-phase program that starts with education, a 10-week college course of sorts that brings our fellows through the ins and outs of agriculture, of food rescue, and hunger fighting. Next, we challenged the traditional notion of a college internship. Instead of having students sit behind a desk with a computer for a summer, we wanted to send them out in the field to learn hands-on from stakeholders. And so we sent the 9 fellows in front of you to food banks, to community groups, to farms, to have hands-on experience in what it means to be a food system actor. In our first year, we sent fellows to 6 states, and they worked over 3,000 hours in the field. So one more applause for our fellows for just that commitment. After they returned from the field, They went through a 10-week project design curriculum where they brought their ideas into reality. They decided how and why they wanted to drive the change of tomorrow, and today they get to share the highlight of that work. I encourage you also to check out the full result of their months-long project on our website, where they'll be available in detail. But today, they're getting to share a bit of highlights of the work that they've achieved in the system. So, today we will have 9 fellows give you a short summary of their immersion and of their project. They'll present in 3 topic groups as it relates to their impact plans. Our first group will introduce you to food bank innovation. They've all spent time working alongside food bank stakeholders and have ideas for how to improve inventory and access. Our second group will talk about food system advocacy. These 3 students are driven on how we can improve food justice principles and create community-driven solutions. Our last group will present ideas on community-driven waste reduction, everything from farmers market recovery to mushrooms. So I just want to end, before I pass it to the fellows, by stressing how incredible this cohort has been for the last year. They've brought what was an idea of, sending kids out into the field into reality, and they took a chance on Farmlink. They have been co-creators of this program, and we're so lucky and proud to have them present their ideas today. And to launch Group 1, I want to welcome Margot Kirby to the stage.
Hi everyone, my name's Margot Kirby. I recently graduated from UCLA, where I studied environmental science and spent most of my time running a food recovery program called Brew and Dine. After living my whole life in California, I decided to spend this past summer with the Field Fellowship working at the University District Food Bank in Seattle, Washington. Spoiler alert, I actually still work there, so it's safe to say I had a pretty good summer. I was able to shadow all programs at the food bank, including our food pantries, home delivery, and grocery rescue programs. That being said, however, my unofficial title was Grocery Rescue Assistant. I saw exactly where our food was coming from because I was the one picking it up and loading it into the van. To give you some context, there are 4 sources of donations for the U District Food Bank. The biggest one is our Grocery Rescue Program, which consists of partnerships with 24 grocery stores and businesses, and that last year provided us with almost 1 million pounds of food. Then we have Food Lifeline and Northwest Harvest, which are regional hunger relief organizations. And finally, individuals provide a small but significant piece of the pie, providing around 50,000 pounds of food a year. But this year, unfortunately, we've been seeing a decrease in all 4 of these sources. Overall, donations are down by 10%, and the ratio of donated to purchased food has shifted from 70-30 to 60-40. The big reason for this shift is market conditions and economic pressures. As a result of inflation, grocery stores are less stocked, meaning there's less food to be rescued in the first place. Within the past year, the average amount of food we pick up from a store on a given day has gone down by 30%. Another consequence we've been seeing is grocery store closures. Just last month, a Target store that provided us with an average of 1,100 pounds of food a week permanently shut down. At the same time, government food assistance has gone down since the pandemic, and food prices are higher than ever. So it's not surprising that demand for food bank services has increased. This year, the U District Food Bank is serving 55% more customers than it did last year. And given the amount of food that we're needing to purchase, we'll have to fundraise $300,000 just to break even this year. Or we can try to return to pre-pandemic donation levels. But how can we shift the ratio back to what it once was? I knew that there must be some gaps and untapped resources somewhere in terms of donations, so I started doing some outreach. I focused on 2 categories, grocery stores and businesses in one, and individuals and community groups in the other. I visited businesses in person, found someone to talk to, and asked 2 questions. Do you typically have surplus food that you end up having to discard? And do you already work with a food bank to donate these kinds of items? What I found was that grocery stores were more likely to already be partnered with the food bank. However, I was able to secure a partnership with 2 stores that we've been regularly collecting donations from. Businesses, on the other hand, were less likely to have a system in place for their food waste, and 2 out of the 3 that I reached out to were interested in a partnership. Alongside this outreach, I contacted individuals who had previously hosted successful food drives with our food bank, and their responses confirmed my assumption that community members are willing to continue supporting their food bank with recurring food drives. The goal here is not just a short-term increase in donations, but a long-term increase in community engagement. And community engagement is central to my call to action. We need your help now more than ever before. You probably know by now that donating, hosting food drives, and volunteering are great ways to help support your food bank, and they are. But I would also encourage you to go out there and talk to your local businesses and ask them what they do with their day-olds. Chances are, in just a few minutes, you'll be able to secure a long-lasting relationship and help reverse the trend of declining donations. Thank you.
No one should have to decide between eating unsafe food or going hungry. Howdy, my name is Kennedy Wilcox, and I'm a sophomore at Texas A&M University. I spent my summer at the Brazos Valley Food Bank, where I had the opportunity to help with several food distributions. Here are the results. Serving my community was so rewarding, but each distribution left me with the same lingering question. How would I feel if I received one of these boxes? As someone with food allergies, much of the contents would be unsafe for me to eat. And for people with more severe allergies, one jar of peanut butter could contaminate the entire box. Currently, most food banks have no program set in place to offer those with food allergies safe food. Over 30 million people have food allergies in the US. Over 30 million, and that number is only increasing. Food allergies in children are growing each year and are especially apparent in minority populations. Considering that food insecurity is also more prevalent in minority populations, this is a problem that needs to be addressed. I believe that the first step to tackle this issue is to implement allergen-free food boxes at food banks. This would provide food insecure individuals with allergies access to safe food. Brazos Valley Food Bank, an affiliate of Feeding America, values respecting diversity and responding to evolving needs. This program would be an effective way to meet those value statements. By making a few changes, like swapping whole wheat noodles for chickpea noodles or peanut butter for sunflower seed butter, lives would be changed. Yes, the swaps are more expensive, but the good news is that this change doesn't need to be made for every box they distribute. The reality is that there are fewer people with allergies than those without, but that doesn't mean that this minority doesn't deserve to be supported too. So Brazos Valley Food Bank doesn't actually distribute food directly to individuals, with the exception of a few programs they run, such as a mobile pantry and a home delivery service, which contain a preset list of purchased foods. They actually act as a major hub that takes in donations, sorts them into categories, and then distributes them to surrounding food pantries. So the donations they receive are obviously mixed. So then the volunteers sort and box them into their respective categories, and then the partner agencies can go online and purchase them by the pallet based on what they want or need. Many options for implementing a solution at Brazos Valley Food Bank were considered. First, I had the idea to survey the mobile food pantry customers, and then based on that need, create allergen-free boxes to distribute at the next mobile pantry. This idea was dismissed because their boxes are designed to be equitable and are all supposed to contain the exact same products. Next, I had the idea to create a new allergen-free sorting category. They liked this idea, but since they operate under Feeding America, they have, Since they operate under Feeding America, they have strict rules, and adding a new category would require extensive approval and just wasn't an option. After much consideration, we decided to combine those two ideas and create boxes that are full of a variety of foods for meals, but instead offer them to the partners so that they can purchase them if they have the need, but aren't stuck with them if they don't need them. So for example, the 12th can, one of Brazos Valley Food Bank's partners, which is the Texas A&M Campus Food Pantry, can purchase these allergen-free food boxes if they need them. And because of the student population, there has been, it's been proven that they do. While the implementation of these boxes is not yet completed, we are underway with the project and have heard feedback from partners confirming that they could benefit from this program. My hope going into the field fellowship was to change the food being served one food bank at a time. Through the support of Farmlink, I've been able to do just that at Brazos Valley Food Bank. and I'll actually be continuing with them as a student employee through 2024. While I'm starting small, my hope is to implement allergen-free sorting category industry-wide through Feeding America so that everyone can have access to safe, nourishing food. Thank you.
Hello? Okay, there we go. Just 2 weeks ago, the U.S. Department of Agriculture released a staggering report citing the highest increase of food insecure households we have seen since the start of 2020. Food insecurity is rapidly increasing in everyone's community. I've seen this in my hometown, Seattle, Washington, where 1 in 10 people are food insecure. I'm Ariel, and this past summer, I interned at Harvest Against Hunger, a community food coalition that distributes grants and funding to over 40+ organizations and farms in Seattle, Washington. I also worked with the West Seattle Food Bank. The solution to food insecurity will always be community engagement. After working with the Food Coalition, I learned that the influx of monetary donations cannot merely be a solution to food insecurity. We need to build strong local relationships that build strong local economies. This means connecting organizations, farms, food banks, and people to each other so we can move away from our dependence on industrial agriculture. Change cannot happen without connection, and connection cannot happen without individual action. While working with my second immersion partner, the West Seattle Food Bank, I saw the direct effects of the burden of the rising increase of food insecurity on the nonprofit. As you can see here, from 2020 to 2023, after the pandemic, there was a decrease of 50% of donations, meaning that people would have to then buy 90% of the food distributed by the food bank. For my project, I wanted to build community engagement with the food bank to support their current efforts to feed West Seattle. By strengthening the West Seattle Food Bank's local relationships with both citizens and organizations, we can aim to gradually increase the rates of both monetary and physical donations over time. We can also re-engage the wider West Seattle community with the food bank's current food fighting and hunger fighting efforts. After the pandemic, we've been left with a culture of disconnect. I hope to remind us of the importance of moving from me to we in our community by taking action. Creating collective power through relationships satisfies both our need for community and connection and our local programs' need for support. Thus, healthier communities equal healthier food program systems. This holiday season, I'm hosting a campaign called Feed West Seattle, in which I'm hosting 6 consecutive food drives as well as an online fundraiser. I aim to sustainably increase the weekly rates of donation back to the pre-COVID rates of donation and reincorporate our community with the food bank's efforts. Additionally, I'm planning through various news and community platforms to fundraise $10,000 for the food bank. I've already hosted 2 successful food drives that have raised and reached an amount of donated food enough to feed 50 families for a week, and we've also built 7 new relationships for the food bank, and $500 have been raised, but the fundraiser just started. I believe that everyone here is capable of replicating my project and getting involved. Let's be proactive about taking action against food insecurity for the mental, physical, and environmental health of our communities. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alicia Jimenez, and I will be starting Group 2's presentations. The following presentations will focus on how to build effective food justice and advocacy movements within the food system. Today, I'd like to use my time to talk about food sovereignty and community empowerment. When I say food sovereignty and community empowerment, I'm referring to the idea that an equitable food system is one that allows communities and its members to be self-sufficient and to control what they produce and consume. These 2 principles are interchangeable and essential in creating permanent change within the food system and making it so people are less reliant on food assistance in the first place. I know that everyone here has an interest in ending the cycle of hunger, and I think that food sovereignty is something that we can all contribute to. But before we get further into that discussion, I think it might be useful to talk about me and my background as a field fellow. I was born and raised in Colorado Springs, where I studied political science and philosophy at the University of Colorado. and it's my interest in social equity that led me to the Farmlink project and all the work that they do. With that, I went into this fellowship and this summer hoping to, one, better understand the agricultural system as it works now, and two, learn how hunger-fighting efforts work within the larger system. And that's exactly what I got. My Phase 2 summer immersion experience was unique in that I got to work with 2 different organizations in 2 different communities. My first partner was at the San Diego Food Bank, where I assisted in several distribution events, helped build a local purchasing initiative, and got to learn from a whole team of nonprofit experts. I also worked at Farm to Pantry, which is a gleaning organization, alongside Owen, who is another field fellow. Here, I got to work with local producers who are directly feeding their communities and delivered fresh produce to service organizations across Sonoma County. It is through these experiences that I've come to realize the potential of hyper-localized solutions, and it has completely guided my research and project design. Through this fellowship, I have created a local policy guide that is not only influenced by the amazing teams I got to work with, but is built to help other actors dive deeper into locally based solutions. It is probably no surprise to hear that the current food system is not sustainable, not only ecologically, but environmentally and socially. It is unsustainable. It's unsustainable. It is unsustainable. The oligopoly structure is fundamentally flawed and continues to leave communities vulnerable to supply disruptions. In order to create a more secure and equitable food system, we have to build a new food system, one that contributes to consumer agency and community independence. This is where my local policy guide comes in. The policy guide is built to help nonprofits and other partners strengthen communities through strategic communication and productive resource sharing. So today, whether you are a part of an organization or a passionate individual, I encourage you to seek out dynamic partnerships. You can empower local economies by supporting community development projects like sponsoring early education garden plots, or even by sharing technology with small or first-generation farms. I also have copies of my local policy guide and would love to discuss in more detail what local partnerships might look like. Thank you for listening today, and I look forward to talking to you throughout this evening.
Hello. Thank you all for being here today. It's really wonderful as we get to share the culmination of our field fellowship. Please excuse me and my nerves. My stomach is asking me why I'm in front of a crowd. Not as much of a joke. My name is Connor Flynn, and like my peers here, I am a field fellow at the Farmlink project. The title of my project is Transformative and Creative Food Action, 3 Key Principles for More Just Food and Actionable Food Resilience. Just a little bit about me. Oop, there we go. I have a bachelor's in liberal arts from St. John's College, a great book school if you've ever heard of one. But I've also worked with several refugee resettlement, direct and social service, and anti-hunger nonprofits. In all of this work, and especially through this opportunity at the Farmlink project, I am focused on the practices that we maintain as a society in order to meet basic human and community need. And what I'm here to share with you today is a big problem with the practices that we maintain, namely conventional food systems in the United States. The problem can be described this way. Conventional food systems in the United States at the structural level do not adequately meet human and community need in the country. Moreover, our food systems are actually a lot more fragile than we thought. The past 3 years have shown us that. They often rely, in some cases, on harm and actively hurting people. And the way we do food in the United States at this moment will actually make it harder to keep doing it in the future. All of this is clearly brought out by the data in several different areas, whether it be from consistent and worsening, one of my peers referenced the USDA report, rates of food insecurity in the country, supply chain shocks, which we are still feeling, and I felt at my immersion partner, from COVID-19 and several international crises, the depletion of farmland and soil across the country, and exploitative structures that are both centralized which effectively bully the little guy in production and industrial agriculture and exploit vulnerable workers. Systemically, our food systems as they are will not solve the problems we need them to solve. They're not positioned to do that or to meet need as that parameter. This and the data around sustainable development and how to best mitigate a climate crisis clearly and naturally and forcefully suggests we need to do something different. But if we're to take doing something different seriously, we do need to take food justice seriously. As a field fellow, I worked both with the Mid-Ohio Food Collective and several partners throughout Chicago, both at the university and the grassroots level and the food policy level. And I'm excited to share with you 3 key principles for the transformative and creative steps we can take for more food justice-oriented practices and food systems. Again, my stomach is speaking to me. The first principle here is that of locality. We need to prioritize and emphasize where we can, and as a priority, hyper-local and hyper-regional food production and distribution. And this can mean partnering with those efforts on the larger scale as well. The second principle, and something core to Farmlink's mission, is to seek synergies. But here we need to seek synergies between civic participation, circular resource practice, and especially meeting marginalized need. In prior work, and especially with the experience of my immersion partners, the stories about, whether it be food stamps or SNAP, but older adults, people with disabilities, communities with significant and historic structural barriers to safe and reliable food access. That can look like older adults rationing medication to make grocery bills, but that's often not thought of. So these are the things we need to prioritize. And the third, see if I can move this banner just a moment. The third principle is that we need to proactively foster and protect the spaces we transform and create. This means using existing social, capital, and political levers that exist right in front of us in order to make sure that the avenues we create remain as vibrant and prefigurative invitations for change. Going to plug a resource here. I have more QR codes in my back pocket. Don't get out your phones out. But I have a handout with several examples and one rather extensive community abstract for my community about what putting these practices into action can look like. If the QR code needs some permissions, I do ask apologies. But I would also like to share really quick, I know I'm running on time, a lot of thought and work has gone into arriving at and discerning the principles in their current form. I would cherish the opportunity to talk about that with you further. So I would like to leave you with a closing and a call, because it seems to me that the foundational question for a civil society is not to marvel at difficult problems or at worst to ask in cynicism or suspicion how we're going to tackle those problems, as if to ask how could we ever make something like this possible? Where are we going to get the resources? Who's going to pay for it? But rather the question for a civil society is to ask, how will we make this possible? Because we're going to do it. Because it's right. Because it's decent. So my closing and my call to action is for us to adopt these principles. Let's consult the handout, and let's get to work. Thank you.
So when we think about college students and their eating habits, I assume most of us are going to think about ramen, right? Those ramen cups that we see in every stereotypical dorm room. And more generally, we picture these college students eating junk food as opposed to actual nutritious meals. And while this phenomenon is certainly true across the United States, it doesn't have to be. My name is Aditi Kulkarni. I'm a senior at Michigan State University and the co-founder of the Spartan Food Security Council. Also known as SFFC, the organization's mission has been simple since day one: to feed our community. The less simple part was how to actually accomplish this. And so over the past 2 years, I, along with my SFFC team, have worked to end student food insecurity at MSU, and I'm proud to say that we have accomplished so much more than we had ever dreamed of. I'm here today to bring the Campus Food Council model to other universities across the country. College food insecurity can affect anyone, especially hitting marginalized student groups the hardest. Food insecure students are also more likely to have hunger affect their education, making it difficult to pursue a degree. Designated food councils, like SFFC, can help students bring awareness of the issue to their campus where they can design localized solutions and implement change. For example, here at SFFC, in just the span of 2 years, we have introduced the Hunger-Free Campus Bill within our state, which will provide funding to universities to implement hunger relief infrastructure. We have organized a grassroots hunger-free campus coalition with 7 other universities. We've created a satellite food pantry on campus, and we have connected MSU students with local food banks and resource centers. So, given all of this, with my experience and knowledge, I condensed it all into a kit, which can be accessed by any student, professor, or administrator across the country. It's a step-by-step kit on how to create a campus food council with guiding questions and spaces to brainstorm. Since every campus is different in its own way, the kit can be used as a reference guide or as a way to critically think about one's own community. I plan to make this kit available via different organizations such as Farmlink and Swipe Out Hunger, as well as personally share with professors and administrators to use as part of their curriculum. And of course, this kit is going to be accessible to any student anywhere. The goal is to encourage students to implement campus food councils at their university and empower students to become leaders in their community. College food insecurity is a big deal. And when students can't eat, they can't learn. And when I co-founded SFFC 2 years ago, I had little idea of what to actually do. I mean, how could I, an undergraduate student, make any actual change? 2 years later, I look back on my experience and realize how much change I've actually created and how it's been a pleasure to work alongside a team of fantastic students. And I hope this kit and this presentation encourages you to go into your own community and create change. At the end of the day, ending college hunger is important because everyone deserves to be fed and everyone deserves to be fed well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna Bowden and I will be beginning our Group 3 presentations. We will be focusing on community-driven waste solutions. What if farmers markets not only provided fresh produce to our communities, but also combated food waste and hunger? I recently graduated in May from Louisiana State University in my hometown of Baton Rouge. I graduated with a degree in nutrition, health, and society, and throughout my college career, I worked with the LSU Food Pantry to increase access to fresh produce in our LSU Food Pantry through Farm Fresh initiatives. And following my graduation, I spent my summer with the Field Fellowship, working with Produce Good, a food recovery organization that recovered produce from private residences, grocery stores, farms, and farmers markets. And I want to tell y'all today about how my experience opened my eyes to what food recovery can look like. Farmers markets are hubs of fresh, high-quality produce that is great for the health and well-being of our local communities. However, some of this produce ends up going to waste due to seasonal fluctuations, the unpredictability in consumer demand, and its perishable nature. Every week in San Diego, I was seeing over 500 pounds of produce going to waste just between 3 markets. Imagine how much waste we see every week with over 8,000 available markets in the country. But this doesn't have to be the case. We could set up farmers market recoveries in our own local communities and be in charge of the waste that we're creating in our communities. And this mission is very similar to Farmlink's core mission. It's just on a hyper-localized scale in our communities that we can have a direct impact on. And so a program like this requires volunteers to go around at the end of the market handing bins to farmers to fill with produce that they don't sell throughout the market. These bins will then be collected and weighed to be tracked throughout the year so that farmers can then record that donation on their taxes, benefiting our small local farmers as well. After everything has been weighed and collected, it will be brought to a local partner agency that can be used to feed our community throughout the week. And so my actions to start a recovery program like this started with outreach. So I reached out to a lot of markets across the East Coast mostly. I got various different variations of no, mostly because I was reaching out in the middle of the growing season because of the timeline of the field fellowship. But the exciting part is I got a lot of maybes and possibilities to start in the spring of 2024. A couple other reasons that people weren't available to start programs are they have 10 or less vendors, which is popular with a lot of smaller markets in small towns, so they just typically don't have a lot of waste and don't have much to donate. Or there's already local gleaning organizations picking up the produce, so that's incredible. But because of some of these pushbacks and some of these no's and some of these maybes, I decided to create a farmers market recovery guide to show anyone, not just only workers and members of the farmers market, how recovery could be possible for them. Anyone could start a recovery program at their farmers market. You just have to be a dedicated individual willing to volunteer a little bit of time. And so the very exciting news is that in the spring of 2024, the Jonesboro Farmers Market in East Tennessee will be the very first recovery program that I will have started. An exciting addition to this recovery program is that farmers are also going to bring in boxes of produce that they would not previously sell at a market because they deem it imperfect or ugly, and it will go directly into the donation bin, as long as it's still of good enough quality to be served with dignity. And so this is going to reduce food waste at the farm level and the farmers market level. And so if this sounds interesting to you, then please come pick up one of my farmers market recovery guides and see if recovery is possible for you. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Owen Clark, and this summer I worked with Farm to Pantry in Sonoma County. Farm to Pantry. So basically I spent most of my time working on gleaning efforts, picking fruit in backyards, harvesting produce from local farms, and contributing to the larger mission of reducing food waste while providing fresh, quality produce to the greater community. Through this, I witnessed the dedication and care that went into growing and establishing pathways for access to this produce. Every step of the supply chain leaves its mark on our food, and the life of the produce led prior to reaching the consumer significantly shapes their experiences. The values of care, compassion, and gratitude within the food production process impacts both its quality and its potential as a communal resource. After my summer in Sonoma County, I returned to Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon for my senior year. My time as an environmental studies major and field fellow deepened my understanding of the industrial waste issues impacting the city, and I was driven to explore ways to heal the land and support communities directly impacted by pollution. As many of you may already know, communities of low socioeconomic status are disproportionately affected by pollution and food insecurity, creating a complex challenge that impacts public health, environmental justice, and equitable access to fresh and nutritious food. Communities that can't access traditional pathways to food also don't have clean soil or land access to grow their own. And that's what I want to focus on today. So we're talking about mushrooms. Over the last few weeks, I have been growing some blue oyster mushrooms in my kitchen and just got so inspired by like how efficient these little organisms are at growing, and they're just crazy. It's mind-blowing to watch mushrooms grow. So I learned more about this process of mycoremediation, which is a natural and environmentally friendly technique that employs certain species of fungi, primarily oyster mushrooms, to remediate or clean up contaminated environments. Oyster mushrooms are edible as well. These remarkable organisms have the unique ability to break down and absorb a wide range of pollutants, including heavy metals, petroleum products, and industrial chemicals from soil and water. It's crazy. So feeling super inspired by these mushrooms, this project seeks to integrate mycoremediation with food and environmental justice principles to restore polluted soil for sustainable food production and strengthen the connection between communities, the land, and the food they consume. So, to test the power of mycoremediation, I applied this natural process to remediate a site on the Lewis and Clark campus affected by a diesel spill. To break this process down, we basically dug like an 18-inch hole in the ground directly at the site and layered cardboard, hay, water, as well as the oyster mushroom mycelium. Now, I want to make this work replicable at scale. I want to bring mycoremediation to other communities by hosting workshops for whoever's interested, honestly. More specifically, this project could engage with Farmlink Student Network, an environmental and food-focused external network. We'll host workshops grounded in gratitude and ceremony, specifically focusing on the personal relationship to physical space and our roles as caretakers to our local environments. Then we'll actually dig and layer the mycelium to support the healing process in the land. So this past week, I actually held my first workshop at a placemaking and environmental studies symposium in Tacoma, Washington, which was just super special and awesome. So we spent some time using natural dyes and paints and stuff to draw prayers, or honestly just whatever people wanted to, and we threw those into the hole with the mycelium and stuff. Super awesome. So with these workshops, we're creating healthier soil systems, and healthy soil is the bedrock of nutritious, safe, and sustainable food production. By using mycoremediation, we can directly improve soil health, reducing the presence of contaminants in the land, and in turn, ensuring cleaner, safer food for all of us. It empowers communities to regain control of their local food systems, fostering self-reliance and resilience, while promoting food justice by improving access and quality. Above all, it deepens our connection to the land and reminds us of our responsibility to protect and nurture our food system. So let's explore how a mycoremediation workshop can work in your community.
Hello. Hi, my name is Jillian Fineglass, and I spent my summer interning at Earth Matter, a nonprofit dedicated to composting and reducing waste in New York City, and especially on Governor's Island. And I'm here today to talk trash with you, because I found myself knee-deep in a whole lot of it while working with Earth Matter this summer. I felt inspired knowing this waste would soon be transformed into nutrient-rich compost. And yet, a disheartening truth loomed in the back of my mind. Unlike Governor's Island, most of the waste in the United States goes straight to the landfill, where precious resources are squandered on a massive level, causing tremendous environmental harm. Unlike individuals, most waste created, while individuals create a wide variety of different types of waste, restaurants create mostly food waste. And yet, New York City has primarily focused on creating programs to encourage individuals to divert their food waste, not restaurants. There's a glaring absence of similar efforts to encourage restaurants to divert their waste. And it requires both individuals and restaurants to make a tremendous impact on the environment that we need to see today. You see, the United States is in the midst of a food waste crisis, with over a third of our food supply going straight down the drain. One of the absolute worst things that we can do to the environment is continue to throw away our food in landfills. And it's not just food being wasted. So is all the water, energy, fertilizer, fuel, pesticides, and physical labor it took to produce it. This isn't just an ecological disaster, it's an economic one, with the bill for food waste costing a shocking $408 billion every year to the United States. Today, I'm here to speak about restaurant food waste and what we can do about it. Now, why should restaurants care? Well, the numbers speak for themselves. Restaurant food waste costs the United States $162 billion every year. And restaurants are known for their razor-thin profit margins. Wasted food represents lost revenue and reduced overall profitability, but it doesn't have to be this way. The average American wants to spend as little time interacting with garbage as possible, and I don't blame them. But what can be gross, smelly, and a nuisance can quickly become a valuable resource when properly sorted, treated, and utilized. It's time for a change. We don't have to waste food waste. We can transform food waste with compost to support our soil health and promote plants to grow bigger, stronger, and better. We can use anaerobic digestion to turn food waste into fuel for our cars and for our homes. Trash should be exciting. It holds the potential for a greener, more sustainable future through a circular economy. To make food waste work for us, we must partner with restaurants. So here's a 4-step plan for my proposed program. First, establish a 3-bin system in restaurants so that restaurants can separate their waste into landfill, recycling, and compost. Second, conduct education with these restaurants to ensure that they are compliant with how to effectively compost. And it's really just so simple as, instead of throwing away your food in a landfill, as we all already do, just toss that food in a compost bin. It's that easy. Third, have a local organization come pick up the compost. There's many organizations out there. It's about establishing that infrastructure to connect them with the restaurants. And fourth, encourage restaurant participation with tax benefits. Waste diversion isn't just good for the planet, it's smart for business. And restaurants are willing participants. I conducted a survey of dozens of restaurants in New York City, and over 80% of them said that they're willing to change their waste management practices as long as they have education, a streamlined program, and tax incentives. And the government should be supportive of restaurants joining this transition, because if we work together, governments, restaurants, and local organizations can be a part of the solution, ensuring that the billions that are spent on waste right now goes back into the economy where it belongs. Throughout my journey with Farmlink, I've come to realize the power within me to drive the change that I want to see in the world. The Field Fellowship has given me every opportunity to turn this vision into a reality. However, the success of this vision hinges on all of us as a collective, joining together to ensure that our food waste is not wasted. This calls for action on multiple fronts, diverting our own waste, encouraging businesses to follow suit, and compelling our governments to take decisive measures to invest in a future where no food waste is wasted. So please, let's start talking trash. And it's okay if we get a little dirty, because it's time that we unite to turn the table on food waste, where what we discard today becomes the cornerstone of a sustainable future tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the 9 changemakers that just presented their theories of change with us. It was so inspiring to hear all of you speak, and I am genuinely inspired by your ideas. For the rest of the audience, we do not want the conversation to stop here. Most of our fellows have brought materials with them tonight that they can share directly with you so that you can drive change in your own community. Also, we want to thank you for being such a supportive and collaborative environment. You are our community, and Farmlink is nothing without its community. You make our change possible with your support. So we are so grateful that each and every one of you made the time to join us this evening. Thank you.
Before we end tonight, I also want to make the space to thank what may have been the most crucial and critical part of our fellowship, and that is our industry partners. These partners were willing to take the biggest chance on Farmlink and our nascent fellowship program. They served as invaluable mentors, coworkers, thought partners, and friends to our fellows while maintaining their daily operations and furthering their missions across the industry. On top of all of that, they went above and beyond to provide each of our fellows with a truly unique and engaging experience that I hope and actually know that they will carry throughout their change-making journeys. So with that, we offer our deepest gratitude and appreciation to all our industry partners. Thank you, guys. To close us out, we want to give a million more thank yous to our partners, our fellows, the Mayfield Foundation, the Farmlink staff, our friends, family, and all of you guys for making this happen. Thank you for daring to dream and believing that we can end food insecurity in our lifetimes. Now, we welcome everyone to join us and our fellows in discussion as we look towards a just and equitable future. Thank you guys again, and enjoy.